Let's try it again. Okay, that's better. Weird. Second one of the night. I guess it makes up for all the things that I haven't done in a while. Well, that is getting started. Yeah, we are live, I think. Let me just double check here. Bam, we are live. All right, people. And I will start it off with the quote of the day, which I've used in the past. The very concept of objective truth is fading out of the world. Lies will pass into history. George Orwell. So, I thought that was fitting. There's only a certain amount of ways that we'll get to the truth of actual history. This is my back scratcher. Why am I scratching my face with it? I don't know. I do this so I could get the camera to focus on me. I think it's the black backdrop it doesn't like, so it's trying to focus more on that than me. Doesn't matter. I'm just telling you why I don't really need to scratch my back. It does feel pretty good when I do. Oh, the segues. Why do I segue so much? I don't know. Okay. Damn it. What was I talking about? History. Yeah. It's going to be tough finding out history. It's not like, unless there's some repository that somehow average people just find and go ahead and share to the entire world, which has been kept by the certain powers that are seemingly in control. We're never really going to get to the truth, are we? So, a lot of speculation, a lot of research. People outside of this power paradigm will have to find it. We might be getting to it with a lot of these archaeological, I guess it's archaeological finds. Mud floods might be one of them. The Great Flood, that's in every mythological story from different cultures all around the world, which is pretty interesting. How would that be? Not that we're all pretty much secluded in the past. That's not the case. What? I guess a lot of people don't do a lot of research. Anyways, this on topic is about research, at least what I've been researching. And I would like to share with people because obviously, if you're going to find some person, some site, some channel that has 100,000, 200,000 plus, you're probably already watching them. You're probably already listening to them, and you don't know how they got there. I mean, it's just a little weird to get that popular in YouTube these days. Especially talking about truth and what's really out there and things like that. So, starting off, I guess I should switch to the headline. I will be going over Marty Leeds. Marty Leeds. If you guys don't know, Marty Leeds 33. You can check out his website, www.martyleeds33.com. He works with numbers and math, and it's pretty intriguing because what he goes through is pretty great. There's also a lot of other things. I know a lot of people will be turned off because he's Christian, but not in the ordinary way, I don't think. And he speaks quite often about the things he doesn't like about Jews and the Christians. But it's not like he's not racist. He's not racist. Plus the 33, a lot of people looking at a lot of Freemasonry, Illuminati, and a whole bunch of other stuff. He's not a Freemason. He's not Illuminati. He's not Luciferian. The reason I got to him and kept watching his stuff is he deals with math and logic. Not only that, is he sees numbers and symbols And a lot of these things, as not good or evil, they're neutral. It depends on who uses and who utilizes them for their gain or their use, whatever it is. I mean, just like this back scratcher, it's not inherently evil, it's not inherently good. How I use it, however, determines its I don't know what you would call it, alignment. I guess if we're talking like D&D, alignment is what's used. Good, neutral, or evil. It's neutral. I mean, if I saw a back scratcher and I hear stories of people saying, oh, back scratchers have killed millions of people, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. And they go, well, back scratchers are evil. I'm like, wait, back scratchers on their own killed a million people? No, no, no. And whatever story that they come up with, and it's like, look, this back scratcher, it's not evil at all. It's a back scratcher. It's a tool. It's to scratch backs. Even if a million people got killed by people carrying back scratchers, it's the people using these back scratchers that are the evil ones. So the back scratcher is just a tool, just like numbers are just a tool. Magic. Well, I should probably use that other quote where you know, magic is just what's the unknown discoveries of science that cannot be explained by science. I guess that's what you could call magic, or hasn't yet been figured out at any rate. Sorry about this rant. I will show you a video, one of the videos, and please be sure to watch as many as you can. I think you'll find it interesting and pretty enlightening, not in just the spiritual sense, but in the mathematical, logical sense, and that's where I'm trying to go towards. Because I'm not gonna convince anybody by saying, "Hey, just believe in me," or believe in someone else just because beliefs. I don't know. There's got to be an underlying factor, a thought process, a logical way of thinking, a logical way of getting towards a destination. That's why, if you're here listening to me, that's what I keep trying to hash out and look at the source material more so than any other material, other people's material. If you can do it on your own, more power to you. That's kind of what I like about the interesting and left of flat earth people, is a lot of them do their own research, they do their own math, they do their own investigations, they don't leave anything unturned to someone else, they do their own experiments. Isn't that what science is supposed to be about? They don't leave it up to other I mean, we've relegated a lot of our science to universities that used to get their funding from the US government. Now it's through private corporations, and we expect them to run experiments and explore science without any reins. Please, come on. If you really think that's the case, you are pretty naive, I guess. Okay, in the second, I'm going to go over stuff by Bill Kaysing, who was the originator of the moon hoax, which is great. There's an interview that he does for about an hour that's never been live. Bill, what was it? Bart Sibrel. He keeps it going. I like him. He's probably do something on him. He's the one, that's his channel that's on, and I won't do the entire hour. I think I'm just gonna do maybe 5-10 minutes where he talks about Ronald Baring, and we'll go over him a little bit, and that will be it for tonight. And again, excuse me in advance for all the coughing. So I'm going to go over to the browser, and if you look in the description box, you'll have to go to YouTube or to Vimm.tv, or it may actually be I haven't really checked Gosh, Steemit and Long Wells. It might be there too. Anyways, those are where you're gonna have to go for a description box. Anyways, you can definitely see the URL. You can definitely see the page, the YouTube channel. I think he used to be Marty Leeds 33, and then his channel got taken down from YouTube. Anyways, I probably will show the entire 30 minutes. I may stop a little bit to show a couple of things, but otherwise I'll probably leave it. Hello.
The square earth, its chariot, the round heaven, its canopy. What do the compasses and square create? They create the circle and the square. So the earth is square, the heaven is round, the heaven is a circle, right? So basically we have squaring the circle. And that's exactly what Genesis 1:1 is talking about. Heaven is a circle, earth is a square. Now we know that Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, is 10 words. And you can put those 10 words right on your 10 fingers. And we also know that in Hebrew, it's this opening line, Genesis 1:1, is 7 words and 28 letters. 28 letters composing those 7 words. And so that number 28 is going to be very, very important. And so
now, before people get confused, I'm going to have to show something so people don't get confused. So he uses a cipher, and this cipher attributes all those numbers. So what you're seeing with all those numbers that he was attributing to words, and you'll see them. I may stop again just to show you. Is let's see, maybe mathematics Matthew.
C2 as.
All right, see this at the very bottom left? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. Letters of the alphabet. There's, please don't let me be wrong, 26 letters. So basically what it is, it goes to 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back down 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what you do is associate letters to the number. So for example, my name, E-B-O-N, would be E would be 5, B 2, O 2, and 1. So you can add them up. 5 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals 9. Or you can multiply. 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20. So you can manipulate it within mathematics. And this isn't his original thing. He picks it up and he utilizes it for his own, and this is where it gets pretty cool. And you will know where he gets that from by watching his videos. I can't remember right now. So anyways, that's what I just kind of wanted to explain to you while the video is playing, because some of you will get lost.
28 phalanges, 10 fingers. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth in both English as well as Hebrew, can be placed on your hands. And we're going to come back to it, of course. I just want to sort of refresh your memory. If you don't know this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sums to 28. So 28 is the 7th triangular number. Adding 1 through 7 equals 28. If you multiply 1 through 7, you get the number 5040. Okay? These are going to be two important numbers. 5040, 28, obviously both begotten by the number 7. 28 found right on your hands, of course. So I just wanted to point that out. We're going to come back to that. But this concept of heaven being a circle and earth being a square is exactly what the Freemasons are talking about. And know that G in the center of the Freemasonic square and compasses does not mean gravity. It means G. It actually means the number 7. It's the it's if you look here, right there, it's the 7th letter. And that's exactly what the Freemasonic square and compasses is talking about. Compass creates a circle, square creates a square, is exactly what Genesis 1:1 is talking about. In the beginning, God created two things, and that is the circle and the square. In other words, there's a certain geometric understanding that a person can come to about the creation, if you will. And so some people will see this. They'll see Kepler, Pythagoras, Copernicus, Galileo, Newton. Look, they got compasses. Look at that. That means they're all Freemasons. Freemasons are evil. End of story. Right? Well, here, I got a compass. Does that mean I'm evil? Here, look. I must be a Mason. I must be trying to run the world.
This is what I was stating earlier. Just because he's got a compass doesn't mean he's a Freemason or evil. I don't have a compass, but even if I did, still. Just like this whole analogy I did with the back scratcher. Look, I like his point. I agree with it. Let me know what your thoughts are.
And I must be a devil worshiper and I eat babies or something. These are drafting tools. These are drafting tools old as humanity itself, as far as we know. If you see any sort of, ancient site, Gothic cathedral, temple, tabernacle, mosque, pyramid, monolithic site, I can guarantee you they were using these things. So I see something like that, and I mean I get it why people come to that conclusion. But what you have to understand is that the compasses and square represent the sacred sciences. And that's why Genesis 1:1 tells you about it. So people will see this and they'll see, look, they're all Masons, they're all evil. What about this? For those of you listening at home, I'm showing a graphic called the Heavenly Compass, and we're looking at God and Jesus holding a compass. Well, I mean, does this mean that Jesus was a Mason? Well, he was a carpenter. I say that, I've talked about this before, but I say the same thing about the number 33. Somebody will see the number 33, it just happened twice this week, by the way. Somebody will see the number 33 on my channel and be like, oh, I guess you're a Mason, blah, blah, blah. And my retort is always, why do you assume evil on my behalf because of a freaking number? And what about Jesus Christ? Didn't he live to 33? Think he did, right? Why did you assume evil? Maybe it's the evil in your heart. Not because you actually thought through the thing. Maybe because you were running scared of a damn number. Or maybe because you were running scared of drafting tools. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound condescending. I think I'm sounding a little condescending. But you can see why I get a little...
I'll be condescending. Hell. Look, if you're scared of a number or a certain symbol or whatever, you've been manipulated. You've been manipulated by media, I would say, by stories. Just look at maybe I think he might delve into it. Why is 13 an unlucky number in a lot of societies, or at least the American society? We don't have 13th story buildings, or at least the 13th story in buildings. Friday the 13th is a bad omen. Why? Stories perpetuated when, where, by who, and they're probably good numbers, but you got this perception somewhere, oh, it's a bad number, oh, or why is 7 a lucky number, or number the B666. Everybody, I know a lot of people who are scared of that number. They see that number, it's like, oh, mark of the beast. And I remember having these conversations a long time ago with Garden Gnome. And he thinks symbols and stuff like that are powerful. It's like, no, they're not powerful at all. What people, they hold no power to anyone who doesn't recognize them. Only to the people who do and can manipulate people to recognize those. And that then it holds a certain amount of power. And I think that's why you see a lot of hands gestures over in our music and magazine covers and a whole bunch of other stuff. People who look into them, it's just the next catch net, whatever it is, for people who are trying to free themselves, free their mind, to open up the possibilities of what's been covering our eyes the whole time, just like a magician's trick. They keep you preoccupied. Hey, look what's in my hand. And then you see their hand go away, and all of a sudden the bird pops up. It's like, where did that bird pop up? I was looking at his hands the whole time. No, you're just looking at this where he's trying to get you to focus on. I mean, that's like magician tricks 101. You basically get someone to pay attention somewhere else while you do something where they won't be paying attention to. Alright, I was trying not to interfere too much.
A little frustrated. It's next to impossible to even try to reason with people or try to get past people's paranoia and see the beauty that is being hidden. So the heavenly compass. Why? Because God used this medium, this language, to create the universe. And the compasses and square, the circle and the square, are part of that creation. Helps us come to understand that creation. Now, I'm going to draw this crudely on my whiteboard here, but for those listening on the podcast, basically there's a square and a circle, and they're overlaid to one another. Approximately equal, let's say, right? Now, so basically what happens when you square the circle is there's just a bunch of amazing mathematical, what I call cosmological constants. We could call them mathematical constants. We could call them universal verities. We can call them principles found within the canon of mathematics that any single human being can come to understand. And that universality is really what gives it that divinity. Okay, so this little line here, right? So what you can do is basically, if this was your compass, right? You can do is right there, and you'd go around, and you could actually create a little circle right at that top there, right? So I'm just going to draw this with my pen here, right? So you draw a little circle. So basically you're just taking the radius between the top of that circle to the square, and you got a radii here, right? So if you just continue that out to create a diameter or make a circle, what you would have is, what you can do here is actually draw 2, 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean triangles that actually encapsulate that circle at the top there, okay? You find the 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean triangle within squaring the circle. Now, when you take this center here, right, you extend this radius up. So what you could actually do is create a circle within this square. And what you can do is find the combined radii here, right? So you've got a radius here and you've got a radius here. Now, if we proportion this whole thing out, this can actually proportion out to 3,960, so that would be that radii there. And this would proportion out to 1,080. And I'll show this in the graphic just to make it more clear. I know this is me hacking and chicken scratch and all that. But basically what you have here, that radii is 1,080, that radii is 3,960. You combine these two, and this is 5,040. Now, what I wanted to talk about, so 1,080 plus 3,960 is 5,040, and we already talked about 5,040. We're going to talk about that again. Now, what I wanted to talk about, the cosmological manipulation of the geocentric system, what I wanted to talk about was how, and I've actually written about this in my books, about how the Earth and the Moon, the dimensions that are given to us, the faulty dimensions that are given to us, in our current cosmology, in the heliocentric model, is begotten by the process of squaring the circle. In other words, the radius of the Earth approximately is 3,960 miles. The radius of the Moon approximately is 1,080 miles. Now, it's not, of course. We know that Earth is probably a lot bigger than that, and the Moon isn't 2,160 miles, and it's not 283,000 miles away either. We know that, right? I think that we can all, at least if you're listening to this, you probably understand that. But what we can do now is actually see how the mathematics, the sacred mathematics, the mathematics that actually are tied to the sacred sciences, the mathematics that they use to manipulate that cosmology. That triangle right there is the triangle, the two-dimensional blueprint in which the Great Pyramid of Giza is created. So when you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, what you're looking at is a three-dimensional representation of squaring the circle. Now this triangle right here is what we're going to focus on, right? So once again, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 equals 28. And we multiply 1 through 7, and we get that fundamental number that can be found in the proportions of squaring the circle. And so this is the Great Pyramid of Giza within that squared circle. Once again, you see that square, you got the circle, you know, basically what would be the all-seeing eye of God, or the eye of providence, would basically, you know, touch the top of that circle there. So this is the Great Pyramid of Giza within the squared circle, and you have its height 1. The side of the Great Pyramid of Giza would be phi, which is once again one of those mathematical constants that's found everywhere. We've talked a little bit about that. I really needed a whole lecture on that, but and then here's another example. So there's the Great Pyramid of Giza that sits inside the squared circle. You make its height 4. Half of the base of the Great Pyramid would be pi. So you make the Great Pyramid its height 4, half of its base will be pi. And so what the Great Pyramid of Giza does is squares the circle.
Just so I can get you up to speed, phi is basically the golden ratio. You'll see that a lot during his talks. And you'll see pi a lot. Pi and phi. All right. Enough. Sorry.
It unites heaven and earth together, is what it does. Okay? Once again, multiplying 1 through 7, 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 equals 5,040. 1 through 7, adding is 28, which means that number 5,040 is on your 2 hands. It's on your hands. So what happens when 2 people with 5,040, I got 5,040 here, oh, Jennifer's got 5,040 there, what does that equal? 10,080. 10,080. 10,080 is, you can actually find, Scott Onstadt is the one I think that discovered this. Scott Onstadt runs Secrets in Plain Sight. He's got a bunch of books, Taking Measure, a bunch of different books. But he showed on his site how a bunch of, if you just go onto like Google, like a Google search, and just look at watch faces, you're going to find a bunch of these watch faces. And they're, I mean, some of them are even digital watch faces that display the number 1008. Now, when you geometrically put the square and the squared circle on top of that watch face, the hands of the clock geometrically imply the number 1008. They geometrically imply squaring the circle when you do 1008. So I just want to show this again. 2 hands, you know, multiplying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 equals 5,040, 5,040. When 2 people bring their hands together in unification, love, care, compassion, equals a number. And that.
All right, so before I go on, one thing I didn't do, Scott Onson, I'm gonna have to look for him. Watch faces. Let's do watches. Images. Oh, look at that. 1008. Wow. Ain't that something? This is Google search, by the way. Oh, look at that. Ooh. But isn't that pretty cool? Watches, images. All the watches that are being shown from all these websites. The hour in the hand. 1008. Hell. I mean, sorry. Even a second is over there. Isn't that funny? That's pretty cool. Things you wouldn't notice. Uh-oh, there's 1010. Uh-oh, what happened to 1008? 1056. Okay, so it's not all, but look, at least all the analogs that I see, pretty much. 1008. Here's 1008 over in the digital. Things you would not pay attention to until you've been told that, hey, isn't this a little odd? Why do you think that they're doing this? And then of course many of you guys aren't thinking. You guys are like, so what, 1008, that's just, it looks better that way or something. You're always going to try to rationalize something that just is very odd. Okay, let's keep watching so you can keep rationalizing.
Number points to squaring the circle. Now, that's exactly, so once again, if you have, when you think about this, when you have 5040 here, and you just look at the diameter of the whole thing, you just doubled it. So we were looking at the combined radii here. Well, you take this whole measurement here, that's that. In whatever unit, that could be, like I said, miles, centimeters, inches, feet, meters, doesn't matter. So that circling of the square to create this fundamental axiomatic triangle that's found in Genesis 1:1 was crafted out of the mathematics of your hands. So you're a product of squaring the circle. Well, of course you are, right? Because in the beginning, God created what? The circle and the square. In the beginning, God created what? Heaven and earth. In the beginning, God created what? Everything up there and everything down here. And what are you? You're strung between those opposites. You are split between those opposites. You are the conjunction of matter and spirit. And that's defined geometrically. Alex Jobert, okay, let's get into this. Alex Jobert says, what are your thoughts on these numbers? The sun's radius is actually supposedly 432,000 miles in its radius. 864.
This is where it gets good, and I don't know whether I should stop there. Of course, he already went over 1,080 is the radius of the moon, and 3,960 is the radius of the Earth, squaring the circle. You know, the two radiuses within, and then now he'll get to the diameter of the sun using those same numbers and the radius of the sun as well. And then it makes you think, wow, isn't that very ironic or coincidental that these measurements have been taken, and that's the actual diameter and radius of the sun, the moon, and the Earth. Just from squaring the circle, and we get that. Either that is very, very coincidental and magical that it turned out to be that way, or has the measurements of the sun, the moon, the Earth, and who measures them been made up? Well, that's to see. Well, I'll just keep let's just keep watching. It's less than halfway over. It's pretty good. You can watch a lot of Marty Leeds' stuff. I hope to have an interview with him. Good stuff. Very needed. I think eventually we need to prove things with math, and that's just the way of it.
4,000 miles in its diameter. This is stuff I've written about prior to Flat Earth. The Earth is its radius is 3,960 miles. Radius of the etc. etc. He's given us a bunch of numbers here. We're given these numbers for the sizes of the moon and the Earth, right? Moon, Earth, and Sun. And we're going to see how these numbers are actually derived from squaring the circle in the human body. Let's go here. So the sun is 864,000 miles in diameter. Well, it's not. I mean, it's not 93 million miles away. 864,000 miles in its diameter. That means half of its radius, so this is the diameter. This is its radius, right? The moon is its diameter is, let's go diameter here, dia, is 2,160. Well, we already know where they got that one. They're Kabbalists, which means they got it from the cube. And therefore its radius would be 1,080. So let's talk about some of these numbers here. We're going to get into squaring the circle here, and we'll get back to NASA as well. So 864,000 miles and 430. Well, the sun's path, there's the difference between what you can measure, what you can clock, and what you can numerically prove to yourself, and the lies. The sun, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. That means the path of one diurnal cycle of the sun is 86,400 seconds. Well, you can easily see that they just took this number and used it on the cosmology of, or on the metrology, I should say, of the sun. They took a verifiable number. All you have to do to find this number is sit on your damn ass and look at a clock and watch it for 24 hours. And count it. You don't even need to do that. You just know that the clock is going to come back around. It's going to be clockwise. What's half a day then? Half a day is 43,200 seconds. And there's your radius of the sun. So they're basically just taking these base numbers in cycles and patterns that God created. This isn't pagan stuff, guys. These are numbers that come from time. And they've used these numbers that are verifiable numbers.
No, that's kind of the crux. I could stop it. Let's keep going. Good stuff, huh? Isn't that? I mean, 60 times 60 times 24, and then you get the, off by power of 10, the diameter of the sun, and then you divide that by 2, and you get add an extra power of 10, and you get the radius of the sun. That's magical. Or maybe someone was just kind of sitting down and saying, hey, we need to come up with the radius of the sun and the moon and the earth so people know. We can't just tell them the real thing. We don't know the real thing, so, or whatever. Either way, it's got you thinking. You got to choose between one or the other. It's just very extremely coincidental and magical that it's coincidental, because that's that would imply some sort of what's that term creationists usually use? Gosh, why can't I remember? Very, very, very well made. It was made to be that way. It didn't evolve. It didn't happen by coincidence, did it? Or it did? Now that would be some magical thinking, that all of the stuff is just coincidental mathematically. Now, or you have the opposite effect is, an organization or society that's very secretive, that seems to hold a lot of power and sway in pretty much all areas of society and around the world, utilize these numbers for their advantage. So when they actually see these numbers, they realize, hey, those numbers are familiar. We studied those in this secret society where we're not supposed to talk about it or something like that. And they're gonna be like, okay, we gotta keep this little charade up. All right, so you're gonna have to choose between those two. Otherwise, you're just gonna have to feign ignorance, and of course, that might be the third option that you always take.
On manipulating the metrology of the sun. The moon is the same thing. You got 2,160. I mean, all of these are actually numbers in time. So when you want to look at a sacred, when we look at that base of sacred information, sacred knowledge system, right? Well, you can't manipulate the numbers of time, because you can just count them, right? You can manipulate the cosmology. You can say what those objects are. You can say how far away they are and manipulate and deceive and lie about that. But you can't lie about this. And this is why you actually find numbers like in the canon of what would be considered arithmomancy or sacred geometry, why you find these numbers ubiquitously or universally across the world. For instance, we found the number 864 in Jesus Christ in both Greek and in English, right? Let's go over that again. Jesus in English. (27 times 32 is 864. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. That's one cycle of the sun, 864. So all you're doing is looking at an order of magnitude to this number. So they've taken the sacred number and sacred science here, and then they manipulated it. What was it? Curios. I used this. Ooh, do I actually remember this time? I do. Oh my God. It's a miracle. Lord Jesus Christ in Greek. This is 800. This is 888. I know I'm going over this fast, but you guys can double check this. I covered it in other videos. So you break this down, it's 864. Once again, numbers within sacred geometry, numbers that are verifiable. And they've taken it and manipulated this. Okay, so this is squaring the circle. Once again, circle and square is referencing squaring the circle. And that triangle there is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, what you can do is fit the proportions of the Earth and the Moon within this squaring the circle, right? So everybody see that. You put the Earth in proportion in that circle, and what you can do is you put the Moon on top of it. And so the top, basically the capstone of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the apex of that triangle, will touch the heart of the Moon in the heliocentric model, which of course we know is horse apples. Right? Now, squaring the circle is not devil worshipping or something. It's math, and it's something that is verifiable by anyone. Now we're going to see, as you can see, they've used this math to actually manipulate the metrology of the Earth and the Moon. Now, the radius of the Earth and the radius of the Moon. So the radius of the Earth is 3,960 miles. And you can even, here, I'll go back to this quick here. Here's the spherical geometry. And you can even see it even says there 3,959 miles, right? Within, margin of error, if you will. But basically 3,960 miles. Squaring the circle. So miles, 3,960 miles. This is the radius of the Earth. And then we have the radius of the Moon being 1,080 miles. And this is exactly what's being measured here. So when they've manipulated our cosmology, they are using squaring the circle. They are using the merging of heaven and earth geometrically to manipulate where you live and what's out there. So not only did they create they created materiality out of God's kingdom, but they've actually manipulated the metrology of the Earth and Moon using squaring the circle. Now, the Moon has 1,080 mile radius, according to the heliocentric model, according to that model. The Earth has a radius of 3,960 miles. That means if you combine this, it is 5,040. Okay? So the combined radius of the Earth and Moon is 5,040 miles in the faulty heliocentric model. Where do they get the number 5,040? Right here. Once again, the very thing that God gave you, they're using to manipulate where you live. How do we find that? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 equals 28. And we have 28 phalanges of our two hands. I'll count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And 14 times 2 is 28. So 28 is the seventh triangular number, which means God gave you 28 here. God gave you 7 right here. You multiply those numbers. 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 equals 5,040. So this number here is a key number in proportion to proportion squaring the circle. Whether it has anything to do with the sun and moon matters not. 100% mathematically verifiable. It's on your damn hands. Right? Squaring the circle represents geometric archetypes. It represents the merging of heaven and earth. Remember we talked about that you are the being that merges heaven and earth. You are the bridge between heaven and earth. You are the one that connects heaven and earth. The heavens come down, fall to your eye line, the earth rises up to your eye line. You are the one that brings heaven and earth together. So all of this is just straight math. Okay? Now they've used this to manipulate the metrology of the earth. Does everybody see that? Got the radius. So this is squaring the circle. You put the earth inside here, you put the moon on top of the earth, and you get the radius of those two objects as it's given to us by all these space organizations, right? And you get the number 5,040. Where do we find 5,040? It's right here. It's right on your damn hands. This is Genesis 1:1, not this. That's all. Crappy crapola. That's Genesis 1:1. This is Genesis 1:1. Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew, 28 letters, 7 words. 28 letters, 7 words. Genesis 1:1 tells you about what? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Once again, using the sacred sciences, manipulating them. The hands, right? Adding 1 through 7 equals 28. Multiplying 1 through 7 equals 5,040. 28 and 5,040. The multiplication of your hands divided by the addition of your hands equals
Again, just so people don't get lost, where he's getting these numbers, 566 is using this bottom left cipher. I is 5, S is 6, and S again is 6. That's where he's getting these numbers, and he's multiplying them to get 180. Just so you don't get lost.
Everybody see that? Same thing as IHS. And what is 180? It's the embryonic polygon of creation. It's the triangle. It's exactly what's found in squaring the circle. That axiomatic triangle. 1, 2, 3. Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. Past, present, and future. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Shiva, Brahman, and Vishnu. Isis, Osiris, Horus. Right? All of those three things becoming one geometric form. This is the first form that encapsulates space. And that's 180 degrees. ISS multiplied equals 180. IHS multiplied equals 180. We already saw that, right? 180 in our hands. This is the multiplication. This is the addition. How many digits you got in your hands? 10. 10 digits, right? Well, those 10 digits are actually the base 10 system. The base 10 system is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 digits. 10 digits, right? We've already done this. If you add this up, it's 180. It's 180. What is 180? It's the Trinity. It's God. And of course, you are an expression. You are the confluence of God's creative forces embodied in a body. And it's right here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 equals 180. You add 1 through 7, you get 28. Multiply 1 through 7, you get 5,040, 180. Do you see what I'm saying when I mean, and I reiterate this and I say it again and again, they are using the sacred system of knowledge to overtake humanity, to enslave us all, to take reality, manipulate it, twist it, pervert it, distort it, use trickery and magic, casting spells, taking a sacred system that is found right here and manipulating it. Manipulating our world, manipulating the spiritual realms and the material realms. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 40 letters, right? And that is the base 10 system. It is a, pun intended, universal mathematical system. It's the base 10 system. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 40 letters. NASA equals 9, so that's a 9 reference to the base 10 system. 10 digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many stars on the NASA logo? There's 40. 40 stars on the NASA logo, representing, at least as far as I can tell, at least mathematically, those 40 stars on that NASA logo are representing the number of letters in the base 10 system that equals 180. You see what's happening here? I mean, this is Genesis 1:1. God created the heaven and the earth. God created the circle and the square and all the things that we can get from circling the square and all the things we can get from our hands. They're taking all of that knowledge and doing what they're doing with it. Okay. That was a long answer to a question, but I had to say that, so. Okay. What else do we got?
So that was Marty Leeds, 33. He has a website. You can go and sign up and be a subscriber there, a paying subscriber, patron, or whatever. I may have to do that one day once I get things rolling. Pretty good stuff. Adds another layer to things, and I keep that in mind whenever I look at things now. I'm adding the mathematical factor in. Now that I know this little piece of knowledge, now that I understand how you use the cipher, and like for me, I would go, okay, yeah, I know about squaring the circle and all this other stuff. As I look into a lot more research, especially into ancient historical stuff, and which also seems to be found in the Bible. A lot of it's taken and added to the King James Bible. So, good stuff. Now, I also had came across this site. It's called the NazareneWay.com. It was unlocking Bible codes, so it was just something that I kind of found just through some random search results. So this is what it has, and this is just more codes. It could be separate from the cipher he uses, but it's still pretty interesting, and you're going to see very identical numbers that you found that we saw. For example, let's go ahead and read it. Okay, Luke's Gospel and the Acts of the Apostles have now weighed in on the controversy. I'll start at the beginning. Unlocking the codes of the Bible from Plutarch's Parable by Gott. The Da Vinci Code has put the Christian world in an uproar by claiming that Jesus did not die on the cross and that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married and had children. Now newly discovered codes within Luke's Gospel could forever change the way the Bible is read and understood. And what's interesting is I'm seeing a lot more people kind of read into the mathematics of the Bible, which is interesting. I can't wait to see what a lot of people's results are, and this is one of them. Luke's Gospel and the Acts of the Apostles have now weighed in on the controversy. And again, I'm not religious. Spiritual, yes. Religious, no. Christian, no. Follower of Jesus Christ, yes. I don't call him Christ. I had to say Jesus, but Christ works. Jesus Christ. We'll see. What Luke wrote and how he wrote it could forever change the way the Bible is read and understood. In the early part of the first century, between 20 and 50 ACE, Philo of Alexandria developed a set of guidelines for the allegorical interpretation of Scripture. It is now thought that Luke used these guidelines to construct his stories and that these same guidelines can be used to recover the coded messages. But why leave coded messages? Why not just write the stories as they happen? By the time Luke wrote his two books, circa 80 ACE, the sect of the Nazarenes were facing a crisis. Their doctrines and teachings had become heresy, and their sacred texts were being destroyed. Jesus, a Nazarene, had come to teach the masses the difference between the science of creation and the superstition derived from myths and lore used to keep wealth and power in the hands of the few. But Rome and the religious leaders of the time would never allow this to happen. Kind of sounds like today, doesn't it? Gnosis, which means knowledge, became a heresy, and the doctrine of vicarious atonement became even more deeply entrenched in the minds of the masses. Jesus had replaced the sacrifice of animals, while the signs of Pythagoras and Plato were being obliterated. Luke left his coded messages in the most unexpected of places, in the hands of the powerful who lacked the tools to know what they actually had. Once the books were collected and approved, the Bible became a Trojan horse. One of Philo's guidelines for identifying codes was to look for numerical clues. Clement of Alexandria called Philo the Pythagorean because he taught a blend of Judaism and Pythagorean science. By hiding Pythagorean sacred numbers in his gospel, Luke accomplished two things. One, the presence of the numbers made it easy for someone to detect if the codes could be found in the stories. 2. Luke was trained in Pythagorean science and sacred numbers, knowledge an Orthodox Christian in the latter decades of the 1st century was not permitted to have. How the Bible codes work. Luke scattered numbers throughout the story of John the Baptist in chapter 1. Luke 1:24 for 5 months, first number 5. Luke 1:27 in the 6th month, second number 6. Luke 1:36, the 6th month, third number 6. Luke 1:56, about 3 months, fourth number 3. Luke 1:59 on the 8th day, fifth number 8. So one of the methods for finding coded messages was to multiply all the numbers in a story. 5 times 6 times 6 times 3 times 8 equals 4,320. And this goes over kind of the coincidences of that number. Okay, so one of the methods for finding one of Pythagoras' favorite and most sacred numbers was 432,000, a harmonic of 4,320. Very much like the harmonic that Marty Leeds was stating with 5,040. Or was it the other number? Sorry. All right, okay. The examples of our harmonics are 432, 4320, 432,000, 4.32, 0.00432, etc. The same numbers, same sequences, zeros can be added, removed, and the decimal can be moved left or right. Harmonics was established and taught by Pythagoras and Plato. I gotta keep that number, keep that word remembered. I gotta remember it. Remember it. All right. 432,000 are found in many of the ancient cultures and myths that predate Christianity, including Sumerian, Norse, Mayan, Greek, Egyptian, Indian, and others. Most of the myths tell the story of a worldwide catastrophe, usually a flood. 432 is also encoded in Genesis and the story of Noah's flood. 4,320 is a very special number in the Pythagorean science of number because 4,320 divided by 2 equals 2,160, the diameter of the moon. We just kind of went over that. Isn't that interesting? 432,000 times 2 equals 864,000, diameter of the sun. We just went over that with the Marty Leeds thing. Isn't that interesting? 432 times 432 equals 186,624. The speed of light is 186,400 miles per second, a difference of 0.001201. Very similar. So how did they come up with the speed of light? Isn't that interesting though? Okay, the Nazarenes call themselves children of light. Luke means light. This opening chapter reveals one number that when halved is associated with a night light, when doubled is associated with a daylight, and when squared is associated with light itself. This is good. I like this site. All right, so Luke made it clear in the first chapter that he was a highly trained student of Pythagoras. In addition to the hidden sacred numbers in chapter 1, Luke left word clues. He introduced the angel Gabriel, who's named in only one other place, the book of Daniel. Daniel was a detective. He solved riddles and puzzles. He translated writings and interpreted visions and dreams. Within just a few short verses between... Sorry, I can't talk. He became... sorry. Let me try again. Right. Within just a few short verses, it became quite evident. Luke was asking Theophilus, I don't know how to pronounce that, defined as one who has an affinity for religious truth, to solve the riddles and decipher the codes in Luke Acts. Both Luke and Acts are addressed to Theophilus. Maybe that's how you say it. Luke's story of the conception and birth of John the Baptist is taken almost verbatim from the story of the conception and birth of Samson. One bit of information given about Samson was missing from the description of John. Samson was a Nazarite. The Nazarites, like the Nazarenes, were vegetarians, did not cut their hair, and did not drink wine or strong drink. Without using the word Nazarene, Luke left no doubt that John the Baptist and Jesus were Nazarenes, and that the Nazarenes were unable to talk openly about their beliefs. All the chapters in Luke's Gospel reveal numbers associated with Pythagoras and or Plato. To describe them here would be quite time-consuming and tedious, but another striking example of the Pythagorean numbers embedded in Luke's Gospel should leave no doubt that it was intentional and required immense expertise. Luke Chapter 9 contains only 15 numbers. 12 times 2 times 12 times 5 times 2 times 5,000 times 50 times 5 times 2 times 12 times 3 times 8 times 2 times 2 times 3 equals 24,883,000,000, or actually 24,883,200,000,000. Wow. The diameter of Earth is 7,920 miles. I'm sorry. When multiplied by one of Plato's values for pi, 864 divided by 275, the product is 24,883.2 miles, which of course is a harmonic of that number. Okay. No first century Christian would have hidden these sacred numbers in a gospel. Only a Pythagorean, Gnostic, or Nazarene would have had the knowledge, the expertise, or the need to do so. Luke's coded messages also suggest that Jesus did not die on a cross. Jesus and Simon the Cyrene switched places before the crucifixion. Reminds me of Spartacus. Oh, no, I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus. All right. Luke 23:26. They seized Simon, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. Luke 23:33. They crucified him there with the criminals. Luke's original words were clarified before they reached the King James Version. At Luke 23:33, him was changed to Jesus. But the earliest texts show that Luke's original word was him, leaving it grammatically more likely that it was Simon rather than Jesus who was crucified. Then in Acts 7, just as he is about to be stoned to death, Stephen rambles on for 58 verses about Moses, Abraham, and other strange out-of-the-place stories. There's 2 of the 58 verses from Stephen's speech as he's about to die are Acts 7:15-16. So Jacob went down to Egypt, he died there, was brought back to Shechem, and laid in the tomb that Abraham had bought for a sum of silver for the sons of Hamor and Shechem. Philo's guidelines include watch for repetitions and errors. In addition to repeating Shechem, there is a glaring error in Acts 7:15-16. Luke switched the names according to Genesis 50:13. Jacob was buried at Hebron, not Shechem. According to Genesis 33:19, it was Jacob, not Abraham, who brought the tomb at Shechem. Luke switched the names Jacob and Abraham, putting the wrong man in the tomb. He switched the cross from Jesus to Simon. They see Simon laid the cross on him, made him carry it behind Jesus, crucified him there with the criminals. According to Philo's rules for finding coded messages, Jesus, the man believed to be in the tomb, was not in the tomb. In a similar way, Luke reported that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married and had a daughter. As shocking as these revelations may be, they become apparent when Philo's rules are applied to Luke's stories. Luke acts read allegorically and following the clues support the ancient legends and the Da Vinci Code's most controversial claims about Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Interesting. I've never seen that. Now you've seen it too. Let me know what your thoughts are. Now we're going to go ahead and deviate away from this, and I'm going to move on to Bill Kaysing. That in its entirety took an hour. Hopefully this won't be as long because I'm only going to show a few minutes of this. If you want to watch the entire Bill Kaysing interview, which it says was never broadcast, you can go ahead and watch it for yourself. It's in the description box in YouTube and Vimm.tv or Steemit. I'm sorry you can't be able to get it in Periscope because it doesn't allow it, and same thing with DLive. DLive doesn't have description boxes yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it back. You're gonna hear a bunch of static. That's not me, that's the video. I'm sorry, and I'll stop it once I think a good portion of what I want to lead into next was Thomas Ronald Barrett. So go ahead and enjoy for the next few minutes without me interrupting.
And go ahead and talk to me whenever you're ready.
Okay. My name is Bill Kaysing, and I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and I grew up in California. And I essentially had a conventional life until, let's say, I left the aerospace industry. In other words, when the war came along, I went to war. I was in the Navy in the Pacific. After the war, I took the GI Bill, got a degree in English from USC. And then I went to work for Rocketdyne, a division of North American Aviation Incorporated, where I was head of technical publications at the Propulsion Field Laboratory. And there I had secret clearance, AEC-Q clearance, and other clearances which allowed me to learn all about Apollo, Gemini, Mercury, other space programs. But after 7 years at Rocketdyne, I decided I wanted to be an independent freelance writer. So I quit and became an independent freelance writer, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
All righty, good. Hold there for a second. All righty, stand by. And go ahead.
After I graduated from college, I got a job with Rocketdyne, a division of North American Aviation Incorporated, as a technical writer. And subsequently, I became supervisor of technical publications at the research facility in the Simi Hills. And there, of course, I had to have clearances such as top secret, AEC-Q clearance, and other clearances which allowed me to know all about Apollo, Mercury, Gemini, and other space programs.
All righty, good. Hold there for a second. Tell me a little bit about your title again and what your job description was.
Well, I was in charge of technical publications for the entire Propulsion Field Laboratory, which was a research facility for the development of large liquid propellant rocket engines, and of course all the peripheral equipment that goes with them. And my job was essentially writing and editing technical prose regarding this research effort.
Good. Tell me a little bit about the working conditions there, the attitude of work, and I think you were talking about some department at one time being entirely lost.
Yes, actually I found Rocketdyne as a sort of white-collar WPA. In other words, the government was pouring billions of dollars into rocket research, but much of the money was wasted. And after a while, I got the feeling I'm wasting myself too. I'd rather do something more productive. For example, at one point, the department that was researching and developing vernier engines, which are control engines, they ran out of a contract. But the entire group stayed at the Propulsion Field Laboratory doing nothing. They would play Battleship, read newspapers, go for walks, have fun in the boonies. And I thought this was a ridiculous waste of the taxpayers' money and everyone's time.
And how long a period did this go on? That particular department?
Well, that particular department, they discovered them after about a year and dispersed them, found them other white-collar WPA jobs.
What were some of the things that you wrote about in your technical writing?
Oh, mainly the development of large liquid propellant rocket engines and everything that goes with it. In other words, turbo pumps that pump the propellants, safety measures to keep people from being killed, the development of extremely sophisticated instrumentation. They could measure anything from a few grams of pressure to millions of pounds of pressure. It was a fascinating period in my life because I learned a lot about, let's say, cutting-edge engineering.
And you talked about rocket failure. In fact, you mentioned something that failure that a particular rocket engine had so many times consecutively. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, the Atlas engine, which was developed at Rocketdyne, was used, of course, to propel the Atlas intercontinental ballistic missile. However, it didn't work too well. In fact, at one point, F-14 Atlas D, which was the latest model, exploded consecutively at Vandenberg Air Force Base. They blew up in the air, downrange, on the pad. So the Atlas engine reliability was very low. And this, of course, gave me a very dim view of space travel, rockets in general.
Now, was this particular type of engine a precursor to the development of the ones used in Apollo?
Yes, it was, Bart. The Atlas engine was a smaller version of the F-1 engine that was used in the Saturn V for the alleged trips to the moon.
Were these failures documented to the press?
Not always. In fact, a lot of what went on at the Propulsion Field Laboratory, which was heavily guarded in a very secure area, much of what went on was withheld from the press. For example, we use such propellants as UDMH, or unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine, and that with, say, nitrogen tetroxide. All of these propellants were toxic to some degree, but the public never knew it. All they heard was sort of a roar coming from the Simi Hills and a lot of smoke coming up, but that's all they knew.
And what gave you that idea?
Well, after I quit Rocketdyne, I became a freelance writer. I got a book contract, and needing a good place to live, my wife and I bought a 75-foot Coast Guard cutter, which had been converted to living aboard. Well, there were a lot of homeless people near where we stayed at the Oakland Marina, so we invited them to come and stay on the boat. After all, it was 75 feet long, lots of room. So one of the men was a Vietnam veteran with a heroin habit. His name was John Grant. And he said, "Bill, the government really screwed me. They taught me how to kill. They sent me to Vietnam. I killed a lot of innocent people." He says, "I'm very bitter at this corrupt government." He said, "You're a writer. Why don't you write something outrageous like, say, we never went to the moon?" And that's exactly where I got the idea, from John Grant in 1974 at the Oakland Marina. Prior to that time, I, like almost everybody else in the United States, believed that we went to the moon.
What gave you the first suspicion that the flights were fraudulent?
The first suspicion came when I flew to Las Vegas to write the book. I got a contract to write it from Price, Stern and Sloan in L.A. So I went to Vegas, where they have a large NASA library, and I picked up one of the books, and it told about a man named Thomas Ronald Barron. Now, Barron was an inspector on Pad 34, where Grissom, Chafee, and White were burned to death. After this disaster, Barron was called before a congressional investigating committee and asked to tell about his experiences. Well, Barron told about all kinds of inept work, mismanagement, total incompetence, people being drunk on the job. In other words, he gave a revelation that Apollo wasn't going to work because of the failure of NASA and North American aviation. 4 days later, Thomas Ronald Barron was killed in an alleged automobile accident at a railway crossing near Titusville, Florida. And Thomas Ronald Barron was the turning point for me in the investigation of Apollo. I believe that anybody who tells the truth and is killed, it's very likely that they were telling the truth.
I kind of listened to a lot of it. I haven't really gotten to Bill Kaysing very much, but I'm going to eventually, because what I want to do is I want to start off where he started off by looking into Ronald Barron. That's kind of my thing. I want to get to I wanted to research something on my own, look through a lot of different avenues, look through a lot of different areas, maybe look through the, at first I like to look through the what most people would consider the legitimate areas, whether it's through mainstream corporate media at the time, .gov sites that have a lot of their stuff archived, .edu, which is a lot of universities that have a lot of information archived as well. So I like to look through those main areas and look at the information from that point, and then I also like to look through a lot of independent researchers' points too. So I'll eventually get back to Bill Kaysing and see what any books that he's written, and I want to compare notes of what I find and what he finds, and if they kind of coincide, because I don't want to look through his book and find all the references right now, and then because I'll just end up kind of almost going through and getting the same result. But I'm just looking at the exact breadcrumbs that he's looking at, so I don't want to do that. But at a starting point, Thomas Ronald Barron, let's see if he's accurate, at least within Wikipedia. And the Wikipedia, all these references are from NASA themselves. NASA. Well, Morning Call is when he was dead. NASA again here. So basically, NASA wrote the Wikipedia for Thomas Barron. So if you don't, if you trust NASA, then hey, you gotta believe this stuff, right? But we'll see Thomas Barron in a different perspective as well. So Thomas Ronald Tom Barron, circa 1938, death was 27th of April 1967, was a quality control and safety inspector for North American Aviation NAA, when it was the primary contractor to build the Apollo command module. He was born in Wilkes-Barre. He attended Liberty High School in Bethlehem. Let's see. Barron was initially employed by the U.S. Air Force and stationed at Eglin Air Force Base. He was later hired as quality control inspector with North American Aviation, the prime NASA contractor for construction of the Apollo spaceship. Barron's report. Barron compiled a 55-page report critical of safety standards at North American Aviation and leaked his report to the media. After NAA learned of this, they fired him. After the Apollo 1 fire, Barron wrote a 275-page report on NASA safety protocol violations, which he gave to Representative Olin E. Teague's investigation at Cape Kennedy, Florida on April 21st, 1967. The chairman of the NASA Oversight Committee claimed that Barron had made a valuable contribution to the Apollo fire probe, but that he had been overzealous. Not 4 days, but here it says 6 days after his testimony, Barron was killed instantly along with his wife and stepdaughter when a train crashed into their car near their home in Florida. Barron's death was witnessed by women and was later ruled as an accident with no suspicion of foul play. Sounds like suspicious foul play to me. Let's see if I can. Freak with the trial. Come on. Anyways, I want to kind of go and explore the 55-page report of NAA, the 275-page report on NASA. That's got to be a long report. I'm sorry. Military, U.S. Air Force, quality control inspector. He's going to be paying attention to detail. Whether all of that is summed up in one word, being overzealous, well, I'm sorry. But if he does his job and pays attention to detail, he will say those things and be non-biased towards his overzealousness. Really? Someone who's overzealous is going to find 55 and 275 pages of safety protocol violations? Really? I am going to have a fun time reading 275-page report. There's an interview, 1:06 with Thomas Ronald Barron. I wanna look. Sorry, you're gonna have to look with me. This is Cold Ray 5. All right, let me let's watch this.
Thomas Ronald Barron was a safety inspector during Apollo 1's construction. After the fire, Barron testified before Congress that the Apollo program was in such disarray that the United States would never make it to the moon. He claimed his opinions made him a target.
Has there been any pressure on you by NASA?
Nothing. We were, my wife and I were somewhat harassed at home when this first thing broke some time back, but it's going away now.
As part of his testimony, Barron submitted a 500-page report detailing his findings. Then exactly 1 week after he testified, Barron's car was struck by a train.
I'm getting a little confused. They said 500-page report. The wiki, of course, NASA is saying it, said it was a 275-page report. And it was here it says that it was a week later when he died. Of course, when we hear Kaysing say it, he says it was 4 days. The newspaper said 6 days, so this is 7 days. I mean, come on. If you're going to be a news agency, report accuracy, either 6 days or 7 days.
Barron, his wife, and stepdaughter were killed instantly.
I believe that Thomas Ronald Barron was murdered because he had the truth to tell about the Apollo project.
Barron's report mysteriously disappeared, and to this day, it has never been found.
What? Are you serious? So I can't even investigate that 275 or the 500-page report because it's disappeared? No, that just seems very coincidental. Oh. How do I investigate when that report just disappears? I'll have to look. Maybe it's leaked somewhere. I mean, the 55-page report was leaked. He leaked his report to the media. So what happened to... So he said he gave the 275-page report to Representative Only ET's investigation. So I'll have to go to him. Let's see. Notable World War II veteran and congressional representative for Texas 6th Congressional District for 432 years. Oh, he's buried from 1946 to 78. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. So did he lose the report? I mean, obviously they had to read. They read the report. All of them read the report because they probably didn't like it. And how long does it take to kill someone after they read a report? 6 days to a week. Gosh, this stinks to high heaven. Anyways, that's kind of where I go with things. Do your own research. A lot of people have gotten to this before me, and I'll catch up eventually, and I'll hopefully connect the dots. Connect the thoughts as well. Anyways, I hope you found some of this new, refreshing, something that you haven't seen ever before. Please watch it again. Certain parts, a lot of people catch things that you and me haven't caught, and looked into it, and they're a little ahead. But we all have to catch up, and we all have to have people who catch up with us eventually. Because it's one thing understanding the truth. I mean, if we all find out that all these peoples and organizations and societies and governments and power players, religious leaders, religious sects, and all this other stuff, they've been lying to us and they've been doing all that, not just for years, but for decades, maybe even centuries. I'm sorry, but the paradigm is going to shift. And it's going to shift pretty damn hard. If you thought the yellow vests in France were big, this next paradigm shift is going to be... it's going to be huge. So, let's get there. Let's get there, guys and girls. All right. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you another day, another night.